Morning headlines with Patriot News Network. Today is January 10th, 2023. Once again, we did make it past 2022. Wanted to go over some different, we're going to be all over the place today, different headlines, different topics this morning. One of the things I want to bring up right out of the gate, this is a big deal for the Republican side, for the conservative side. Let me pull it up here real quick. Just a tough day. Let me pull it up there. There we go. So Diamond and Silk, a lot of us know these guys passed away at the age of 51. Inetha, Lynette Hardaway. These guys were super awesome. They had the most infectious personalities that I have ever seen for people that, basically they came out of nowhere and started a talk show on their own. And they were huge, as everybody knows, huge Trump supporters. They were a great voices for the Black community. And they, unfortunately, as I said, passed away at the age of 51. It said that she was battling COVID over Thanksgiving. It doesn't really give a whole lot more information than that. Of course, Diamond was from North Carolina. Those guys, her and her sister Silk, were born there, and they were just such an amazing duo. Like I said, just their personality was infectious. They were super, super sweet. Anybody that had come in contact with them had just really said how amazing these two people were. So Donald Trump said really bad news for Republicans and frankly all Americans. Our beautiful Diamond of Diamond and Silk has just passed away at her home in the state she loves so much, North Carolina. Silk was with her all the way, and at her passing, there was no better team anywhere or at any time. Diamond's death was totally unexpected. Probably her big and precious heart just plain gave out. Rest in peace, our magnificent Diamond. You will be greatly missed. So again, just a sad day for that. Super awesome duo there. Just always, I can't ever remember, and I did watch I quit watching their stuff, more recently, but back when I used to watch them quite a bit, they were just always just in such a good, playful mood, no matter what was going on. They'd be covering some pretty tough stuff, but they would still just keep that infectiously good attitude. So here I want to talk about something that I've been talking about for several months and been saying that I don't know how we change the definition of a recession. It's always been 2 negative quarters of the GDP, which we have had. I believe now we're in our 4th negative quarter. So now you're starting to see everybody talk about the looming crisis coming for the economy, the recessions coming. We like I said, in my opinion, by the basic definition that we went by for the last couple, 150 years, it has been in a recession. We've had an administration that wouldn't admit it. We've had a Fed chair that wouldn't admit it. We've had the mainstream media that wouldn't admit it. But now they're having to admit it because there's no way around it. There's a guy named Bill Bonner who went to law school with Chairman Jerome Powell, and he is written many books. He had 3 predictions that he's been right on. And the first was back in the 80s. He warned folks about the imminent threat of the Japanese stock crash. His second big warning was about the .com boom in the 1990s, right? Make sure you get your coffee in. And of course, the third one was the 2008 housing market crash. So he's predicting a 4th and final warning that we are going to see a lot of problems coming up, and it's going to affect everyone. And the thing is, it's a lot of times in these downturns, people can make some moves. They can invest in certain things, and it kind of cushions the blow for some of that. What he is predicting is that he is finding it very difficult to be able to find any ways to tell anybody how to avoid this, and this is going to be everybody. So normally, again, it's going to only impact your investment, your savings that you have saved up. I'm going to deplete those a little bit, but now he's saying this is going to affect many aspects of your daily life. So in short, 2023 is going to be a year unlike anything we've ever seen. I keep bringing this up. I'm not a doom and gloomer, but I am a realist. I believe with the food shortages, with the price increase in energy, we've already seen, just for an example, here in Texas, gas was $2.49 a week and a half ago. In a 4-day period, it's up to $2.95. So, it jumped nearly 50 cents, within a 3 or 4 day span. Of course, groceries just continue to climb. An 18 pack of eggs yesterday at the store was $10.81, right? $10.81 for an 18 pack of eggs. So we're going to see a continued increase in food. We're going to see food shortages. We're going to see cost of products going up, and we're going to see a lot of businesses start to get affected by this, because at the end of the day, you only have so much money that you can spend, right? And you have to start prioritizing that money on where you're going to spend it. If you're paying $10 for a package of eggs, then obviously you can't go buy, that shirt you wanted the other day or a pair of shoes that you were looking for. You're going to have to wear one of the 10 pairs of shoes that you have, right? And so it really is going to cut down on the extra spending that we do as a consumer-driven society. And we are extremely consumer-driven. That's why basically we spend so much money on junk from all other places. And maybe it's not a bad thing, in a sense that we can start bartering, right? So everybody's got a garage full of crap, couple of closets full of stuff, and maybe a bartering system will start to come into play. You start to trade some stuff that you have that you need. But one of the things I want to talk about here, because I kept bringing this up about the small businesses during the beginning of COVID, 52% of small businesses went out of business, right? That's a huge, 50%. That's a huge, 49% to be exact. That's a huge impact on the on the small business world, because the small business employs 52% of America. These are your restaurants, your small businesses, your mom and pop shops, right? They fell to 89.8% from 91.9% in November. All right. The historical average is normally 98. So we're almost 10 full percent below what we normally are at. So what's happening is these 2023 businesses, or these small businesses in 2023, they are not optimistic whatsoever. These conditions are continuing to deteriorate. You're looking at high inflation. You're looking at the cost of goods. I talked to a friend of mine that gets product from overseas, which many businesses in this country do, which is a whole nother subject. But to have so much of our daily life needing to be shipped over to us, that puts us in a very, very vulnerable state. What if one day just, China says, we're not shipping another container to America? What would we do? Think about all the products that we get from there. How would we survive? You can't just start up a manufacturing company tomorrow and replace it. You know how long it takes to build a manufacturing facility? Yeah. So even our food, when you go to Walmart, look at the back of some of the frozen food. It comes from China. Now, I don't know how it's more cost effective to ship frozen food from China to America, but somehow it is. But my point is that these small businesses are not looking good. These are our friends. These are our family. These are people that we know. These are members of our community. And this industry is about to take another major hit. So what does that mean? That means more house foreclosures, more car repossessions, more families with nowhere to go, more businesses closed up. Excuse me. This is very bad for what's going on. Um, it's very important that we see the writing on the wall and try to prepare as much as we can, minimize, get rid of anything that, the bill stuff that you're spending money on, your Netflix, all these things that you're spending on. You're like, oh, it's no big deal. It's $20 a month here. It's $10 a month here. You really, 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 really may want to rethink that and start pinching down on those pennies, right? So jumping up to New York. New York has always got some good stuff. It's like California. If you just need some good stuff to talk about, dive into those two states. You'll inevitably come up with many stories that you could put up here. Now, something I found that stop buying designer stuff. Absolutely. And stop buying stuff we don't need. That's a huge point I'm trying to make. But, there's a lot of things. We're a consumer-driven country, and we buy so much garbage. We just buy. I mean, if you really, sitting in the room that I'm in doing this podcast, I'm looking at probably 13 or 14 things I never needed. I just bought them. I liked it. It was it, whatever the case may be. So hopefully we can get back to a barter system. We can start bartering off some of this junk that we have and start, trading stuff. I think that would be a great way to slow down our dependence on other countries for this. So let's talk about the nurses in. Now this is kind of a big deal for me because I'm going to say some things that aren't related to this article. But over 7,000 unionized nurses strike in 2 hospitals in New York City. The rest of them came to an agreement, but 3,600 nurses at Mount Sinai Hospital. I think that's a very interesting name. You take something very sacred like Mount Sinai and you name a hospital after that. Doesn't go very good to me. And 3,500 at Montefiore Medical Center. Now, I was just curious because I know what Mount Sinai is, so I wanted to look up Montefiore, right? And this was a Jewish businessman that promoted, that put large sums of money to promote industry, business, economic development, education, and of course, health. But this was in Britain. He was a British financier and banker, activist, philanthropist, and a sheriff of London. So I just thought that was interesting. So the strike has forced these 2 private nonprofit hospitals to adjust their services. They've had to divert ambulances. They've had to postpone any non-emergency surgeries. They've had to transfer patients. They've had to bring in temporary staff to help with everything going on with the patients that they do have. So again, the other hospitals were able to come to an agreement, and these 2 could not. So the union's saying that they're striking because of they're understaffed, right? And that this has caused the nurses that are on duty to be overwhelmed. See, I was really excited when I saw this particular deal here, right? And I'll tell you why. I was excited because I thought that maybe this was due to how we're handling the protocol of patients, right? And knowing that putting them on certain things like remdesivir or putting them on ventilator, I thought this was over something maybe, hey, we got to change our protocol for patient care. I watched a video last night of a lady that went to a hospital in Texas for COVID. She was there for 16 days. Now, this is in Texas, right? This is a red state. This is freedom of choice, the free state. I live in Texas. And her story was absolutely horrific. They did not give her any water for 7 days. They would give her Miralax and water and tell her she could drink that, but she refused to because she said, that's going to dehydrate me. Why would I drink that? And why can't I have water? And they said, you can't have anything by mouth, with no explanation as to why. They did give her remdesivir. She said it felt like, if she could describe it, just the stuff going, she could feel it going through her body like pins and needles. The doctor told her and her husband she was not going to make it. She was going to pass away there. Long story short, she demanded ivermectin. She demanded hydroxychloroquine, and a few days later, she got better, got out of the hospital, and now she is on a mission to destroy that hospital and the medical staff. And the reason I bring that up is this. I understand in the beginning, as our first responders, our medical staff and everything, I understand in the beginning you had no idea what battle you were up against, right? I understand you had no clue what you were battling against. But today you do know. And you continuing to follow a protocol that is not to save your patient's life and not in their best interest is a crime to me. I just recently learned that less than 11% take the Geneva Hippocratic Oath, which promises to do no harm to the patient. That was very, very striking to me. They have some modern version now, Hippocratic Oath, that does not state that you're going to do what's in the best interest of the health of your patient. It's about following protocol. That brings me to the brown shirts in Germany. Remember, they were just doing their job when they were doing H-man's bidding. Then we came out with a Nuremberg Code. And that Nuremberg Code says that you cannot harm people, knowingly harm people, or you will be held accountable. So unfortunately, I thought this strike was about that. And it's just about being overworked. I'm just wondering, when is the medical world going to stand up for what's right, put their paycheck aside, and realize that they don't have a career without customers? And if people don't trust the medical industry and quit going to the doctor, yeah, they may unalive at some point. But apparently going to the doctor is going to get you unalived as well. I'd rather take my chances at home than to go in somewhere and be mistreated. So if you put on that uniform, if you go to work in a hospital, I ask you, when is enough enough? When is your moral compass more important than your bank account? And you cannot sit here with an honest face and tell me that you don't know that this isn't right by now. Right now, the amount of people that are unaliving suddenly, Monday Night Football, nobody questioned why that young man dropped. Then they had doctors explaining a few days later that based on the hit he took to the chest, right? He took a hit to the chest. It got hit at the same time his heart was in between beats, which caused him to go into cardiac arrest. Now, I am 40 plus years old, and I have watched football my entire life. I played football since 6th grade. I have never, ever, one single time seen that happen. Out of the millions of hits that I've seen playing and watching football, as a simple explanation of getting hit at the same time that your heartbeat is in between beats, surely we would see this fairly often. But they want us to believe that's what was it. We've had reporters on news anchors standing there giving you a story and falling out. We've had people at podiums telling you to get the jibby jab and falling out. We're seeing people looking up to the sky, rotating in circles and having a cardiac arrest. Now, I don't have all the answers, but one thing I can tell you is something is not right. There's been one variation in the last 2 years, right? There's been one variation, but you can't say it. Shh, you can't say it, right? It's insanity. Insanity. All right, so let's go to the next topic. This is very, very important to me. Lula and China will build a Marxist superstate in South America unless Lula is forced to comply with election laws. Now, one thing I want to bring up before I go into that is in Brazil, up to 1,700 patients, patriots are being held in Lula's concentration camps. 2 so far have died. They shot 5 people. These are patriots that want to stand up for their rights, their freedoms. They have been protesting for 2 months, right? Now, the current president of Brazil is saying, oh, we want everything democratic. People have the right to protest, blah, 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 right? What they say, and what they do are 2 different things. And we're seeing that in America, right? We're seeing that with the politicians. We're seeing that with the things that are said. We're seeing that with what comes out of this administration's mouth, what they say, and then what they do are 2 different things. We're seeing that every day. That is the not number one. That's one of the instructions to being a Marxist or communism country. Say one thing and do the other. Say one thing to the people so they hear you say it, but do the action of the opposite, and then blame it on the other side, right? If you read Robert Marx's book, that'll tell you exactly what that is, right? So again, going back to this is, I'm going to, do I want to play the clip? It's tough. 2 people have passed away in there. Let me go ahead and play a clip because we need to see.
Mais uma pessoa passando mal aqui nesse lugar. Ajuda aqui! Socorro, água!
Tem um pouquinho água.
Vai lá, congela.
Okay, that's really enough. These are elderly people that they've rounded up. These are, it's everybody, right? But there's elderly people in here. There's no water. As you saw her holding the bottle of water, screaming agua. There's no food. They're just all thrown into this warehouse. So again, you have this president saying that they have the right to do this, they have the right to do that, but they just round up 1,700 people that are demonstrating, throw them in a warehouse with no water, no food, no nothing. So we need to start watching the actions, right? We need to start watching the actions of what these people are doing and quit listening to the words. And that even includes everybody in this country. Quit listening to what they're saying and start watching what they're doing, because what they're doing is not matching up with what comes out of their mouth. And that is on both sides of the aisle. And I'm going to say this, and I know this may upset some of you guys, but if we can't have honest and real discussions about things, then we're never going to get anywhere. And I'm going to say this, I'm a very firm believer of the right wing and the left wing belong to the same bird, and both of those wings have to flap to get that bird up in the air. We have not been represented as people for a very, very long time. I want you to think about something. The government is a public servant to the people. A citizen is a private citizen. The government is supposed to know very little, much to nothing about us. And we are supposed to know everything that the government is doing as a public servant to us. Now, ask yourself a very honest question. I don't care if you live in a red state, a blue state, a red city, a blue city. I don't care where you live. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care if you're Republican or you're Democrat. Ask yourself a really honest question. How much do you truly know about what the government does? How many times do we see nothing but papers come back with black lines redacted all through them? How many times do we get told we can't be told what's going on because it's a threat of national security? The Patriot Act was enacted under Bush that allows them to constantly spy on every single aspect of our lives. We are spied on 24/7. And yet, anytime we ask a question about the government, we're told to be quiet. You can't ask that. We can do what we want. We hold all the power. We hold the gavel. Folks, we better wake up really quick, because I have never in my life seen any government around the world ever take away the right of a citizen momentarily and return it. Ever. Ever. And if you can show me one, I'll give you $500. Literally. It's never happened. And we need to wake up to that fact really, really, really fast. So what they're talking about here in this is basically China is trying to set up their infrastructure in South America. Of course, they've been working on this for a long time, and they're trying to take over Brazil. They want to have bases, military bases in South America. Why is that? Why is that bad? Well, just the sound of it is horrible, right? They want to put those, and I know before somebody says it, some people are going to say, well, the U.S. has military bases all over the, you're right. And that's really what is a big problem in this world today, is that every country, in my opinion, every country should be taking care of itself, should be focused on itself. What can it do for itself? How can it better itself? How can it better taking care of its citizens? How can it better the economy for its citizens? You know, the one thing that I think we missed the boat on is the focus of every democracy, as they like to put it, is what's the focal point of every election? Right? What's the focal point of every election? The economy. The economy, the economy. Should the focal point of the election in our country be our moral standards? Our moral standards to be a good person, to be a good citizen, to be a good business for the community, to be a good, that a moral compass should be the most important part. Values, morality, that doesn't even exist hardly anymore. Instead, it's always money. That's the focal point. Money, 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 money. And in these days, it's how much money the government can swindle out of you and put in their pocket. That's really what it boils down to, right? Hey, Carol, how are you? So basically, again, Latin America as a communist super state backed by the Chinese party, the CCP, directly aimed at the United States. That is what the Monroe Doctrine is all about. Our founders, our fathers warned us about this. Don't go searching for monsters to slay in Ukraine. Watch what they're doing in the Southern Hemisphere. We see, again, we got everybody focused on Ukraine, and we're not paying attention to what's going on. It's always smoke and mirrors. Anytime you see something happening, look at it. Look at it. But then go look at what you're not seeing and try to figure out what maybe that is, right? Figure out what they're smoke screening you for. The House Republicans, McCarthy, I guess, is filling in his first little deal here. He is voting to unanimously to repeal funding for the Army of 87,000 IRS agents. Now, if you haven't already looked into this, again, their whole pitch was the reason they were bringing on these 87,000 IRS agents wasn't so that they could answer the phone so you could actually reach somebody when you call the IRS, right? Or get a question answered that you may have when you call the IRS. It wasn't for that. What it was for was to go after the rich people. Now, that's what it was saying, the upper middle class or middle class to upper middle class. But multiple reviews of this have come up with the analysis that the IRS audits poor people 5 times at the rate of the wealthy. Right? So these are people that are doing the earned income credit, the child tax credits, trying to beat the system. They're going after them, right? Now, I say that to say this, if you're not filing your taxes correctly and they come get a hold of you, then that's something that you brought on, right? But then you go back and you take a look at taxes. Show me somewhere that it's written in law that we have to pay. My mind went blank, right? So the payroll, income tax, right? Where does it say that in law? I've been looking for it for a couple of months, probably 4 months now. I can't find it actually in law, which is very interesting, right? The IRS has obviously targeted conservative groups. They've been used as a weapon, just like everything else. And what's even more interesting is, again, they're just a collection agency. They're not even the federal government, right? So it looks like they are going to repeal that part of the bill and defund the 87,000 IRS agents. So that, if that happens, it should be good. They passed a 55-page rules package on Monday night, 220 to a 213 vote. Now, what's going to be interesting is to see once they pass it here, right, and then it moves to the Senate, then what's going to happen, right? Because we know who still controls that. So is this just going to be a bunch of smoke and mirrors again? Is this going to be a bunch of, get our hopes up and then get over to the Senate and it drops out, right? We'll see. I suspect that will be the case a lot of the time, right? All right. So we all know Mar-a-Lago got raided. They got all these documents. They're taking they're taking boxes and boxes of documents, and they were saying these were all classified documents. And of course, after they gone through them, they figured out, they're not. But here's something that's interesting. So supposedly, right, Joe Biden illegally stored top secret classified documents at the Penn Biden Center. That's a nice looking little snazzy place there, isn't it? The Justice Department is looking into classified documents from Joe Biden's time as vice president discovered at the Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy and Global Engagement in D.C. Doesn't that just sound shisty? That just sounds shisty to me, right? So according to CNN, CNN, they're still around, Joe Biden's attorney discovered the classified documents in the private office for which included top secret files for the sensitive compartmented information designation last fall. Did you get that? Last fall. Just days before the midterms election. Well, that's weird. We're just hearing about it now. It's kind of like the Biden laptop, right? We didn't hear about it until after the election. Wow. All right. We did, but they dismissed it extremely quickly and made sure they deleted it. And the DOJ and the FBI partnered up with Twitter and made sure it all got deleted and Facebook, right? So according to the CBS News, Attorney General Merrick Garland assigned a U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, John Lausch, a Trump appointee, to review the documents. Now, that's interesting. So we got a Trump appointee that's going to review the documents and then get back to us and let us know what's going on. So it'll be interesting to see if anything comes out of this, right? Because we see this often just like we had all the Trump-appointed SCOTUSes and what happened to the Brunson case. I'll be on that in just a minute. When the FBI, when is the FBI going to raid the homes of Joe Biden and perhaps the White House? These documents were definitely not declassified, Trump said. So we have non-declassified documents, which is a crime. Okay, so we're gonna emphasize that again. This is a crime. Just like the Hillary having the email and the servers was a crime. Well, what happened to her? Nothing. Still nothing. Still absolutely nothing. One more time, nothing, right? Gonna put her in jail. So she's not in jail, right? So it'll be interesting once again, to see if anything comes of this. Again, I just want to keep pointing out, guys, I'm not going after anybody individually. I'm saying that the right wing and the left wing flap at the same time to get that bird going. And we have got to realize that as a society, right? Yes, they are armed. The 87,000 IRS agents were armed. It very interesting. It was interesting to look at them training. They did not appear to be very threatening, but I don't know why you would need threatening armed IRS agents. I mean, I know they have criminal divisions that go after certain types of people, like maybe, the cartels or the criminal criminal families or whatever that are trying to embezzle money or, whatever, wash money, launder it, whatever. So I understand, some of them needing to be armed. Now, to an extent, I don't know why you wouldn't just have the FBI or somebody else assist in those arrests, why you would need to actually arm, people that go over your taxes, right? So to me, that always seemed very odd. Again, if they had a family, let's say they were trying to take down a cartel family or a crime family or whatever the case may be, and they needed somebody to arrest them, why wouldn't they just call the FBI in to do that arrest or one of the other three-letter agencies? Maybe they're too busy coming after soccer moms at school board meetings because they're domestic terrorists. That may be the problem. They're just all tied up for that. So, yeah. Oh man, it's just sometimes you got to laugh a little bit. You do. Sometimes you got to laugh a little bit. That way you do not, that way you don't cry, right? Got to laugh a little bit every now and then. So the FBC commissioner trainer sent 3 emails regarding millions in Democratic election crimes. And guess what? There's still no response, right? So the corrupted criminal Democrat machine committed millions of dollars in fraudulent campaign finance activities, right? That they've been identified and provided to the head of the FEC. To date, these communications have been 100% ignored, right? So once again, another crime, another criminal activity has happened with our government, and once again, it's ignored and swept under the rug. I have a question. What if we were committing these crimes? How long would it take for us to be in jail? How quickly would they mount this massive prosecution against us using taxpayer dollars, sicking all these prosecutors on us and trying to stick us in a hole for as long as they possibly could? It would happen to you. It would happen to me. It would happen to you, and it would happen to me. That's right, Landon. We'd be in jail in less than 24 hours. We'd probably have some ridiculous bond set that we couldn't afford to pay. We'd sit in jail for months on end, if not years on end, waiting to be arraigned, waiting to go to court, then spend millions of tax dollars money against putting us in jail for some ridiculous amount of time. But yet our government just gets to continue to act like a cartel. Except for nobody's policing them because they are the police. I mean, this is pretty mind-boggling, right? Millions and millions of dollars. It turns out that millions of dollars of donation in the 2022 election were sent to candidates like Raphael Warnock, who's supposedly a preacher in a church. Good Lord, what kind of church is that? That man is nothing but pure hate. From money mules around the country, Warnock was the top beneficiary of all 2022 Democratic candidates identified in this money distribution scheme. He was the number one person to get money. That man is so full of hate, so evil, and he's the one that gets the top. Does that not tell you what that party is all about? And some of you blindly follow that party. Some of you blindly walk behind it. Oh, yeah, you support it. And it's just evil, right? In April 2022, engineer Chris Gleason began working on his first data project involving elections, very first one. The project was tied to the 2022 midterm election. This was unique for Chris because he had been involved in tech and data for the majority of his adult career, although he never used his expertise on a political project, right? So he went in, identified all these different campaigns that were Democratic, that were getting money, that was not supposed to be doing that, right? So Stephen in Missouri, a guy, just random guy, right? Stephen in Missouri made 14,111 political donations totaling over $180,000 in the last 2 years. And Stephen's unemployed, right? So Stephen from Missouri donated an average of 19 times a day, folks. 19 times a day. 19 times a day for 2 years. 14,111 political donations totaling over $180,000, sending 19 checks out a day, unemployed. We're okay with that? Does that not show you the system is completely broken? That it's rigged? And that if we continue to allow this, there will be no system. So the FEC Commissioner James E. Trey Traynor was nominated by, once again, President Trump and confirmed by the United States Senate May 19th of 2020. He was appointed to the term ending April 30th of 2023. So he has a few months left before he's out of there. And what's going to happen with this? Is this going to be another headline that we read and that 2 months later we're not even talking about anymore? It's just not even a discussion. It's gone. It's forgotten about because we wake up to 15 or 20 different headlines every single morning. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. So let's go to this wonderful story. Republican legislators turn their backs on Katie Hobbs. They walk out on a radical state of the state address. Arizona Freedom Caucus released a statement condemning new breed of radicalism, right? So she gets up and makes this crazy speech that was just riddled with violations of the Arizona law. And she is obviously embracing the left extreme woke agenda, right? And so they're actually, I believe these Republicans are now filing a lawsuit against her. But that kind of brings me back to, we hear about all these lawsuits that get filed, lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And then what really happens, right? Nothing. We hear about there's a lawsuit being filed, and then that's pretty much all we hear. And then next thing we know, we don't really hear anything about anymore. And that's it. And we get on these, we hear these headlines and we jump on them like, yeah, something's being done. And we think something's being done. And that suffices us, that pacifies us. That gets us to move on to the next subject. Because we see, oh, the Republican caucus in Arizona is suing Katie Hobbs. Yeah, they're going to go get her. All right, next. What you got next? What's going on next? Nothing actually happens with that. Right? Nothing actually happens with that. Donald Trump filed over 200 lawsuits for the 2020 election. How many of them went anywhere? Zero. Not a single one. So nothing came of it. We saw what happened. Tubs being pulled out from underneath tables, ballots being reran over and over. We saw it with our own eyes. You didn't see it. You didn't see it. We're starting to see more and more. So we saw the big scare on Monday Night Football. Now we're starting to see, if you go to Twitter, there's a died suddenly page that you can follow. You can start to see where people are coming on from all backgrounds, from all races, from all political viewpoints, talking about friends and family that are unaliving suddenly. How many times have you heard unalive suddenly in the last month? Now ask yourself this. How old are you today? How old are you today? How many times in your lifetime have you heard of this many people unaliving suddenly? How many times in your lifetime have you heard that playing video games will cause cardiac arrest? How many times in your lifetime have you heard of working out will cause cardiac arrest? How many times in your lifetime have you heard walking outside in suddenly cold temperatures will cause cardiac arrest? How many times in your lifetime have you heard standing up too fast will cause cardiac arrest? And the list goes on and on and on and on. They're basically saying you can have cardiac arrest from virtually anything that you do today. Now, why? Because they have to have some explanation. Reading too many headlines will cause cardiac arrest. That was in CNBC, I think, maybe, or NBC. I don't know, one of those. I read a lot of headlines, a lot. No cardiac arrest yet, but you never know. If I'm alive, maybe that was the reason, right? Here's something that scares the bejesus out of me. BioNTech to buy AI expert InstaDeep for 562 funky sign. What is that? Pounds or something? I don't even know. Whatever, right? A lot of freaking money. $684 million. Now, I'm a little concerned about this because BioNTech, which is, you got to watch a lot of what you say on here. I want to say a lot, but it's the nanotechnology, right? Now they want to get AI involved with it. Well, yeah, so that is freaking me out, right? And should freak everybody else out, right? Because, but they, of course, they're going to focus on cancer, right? That's what the BioNTech was going to do. BioNTech was charting a path forward after working with Pfizer Inc. to develop the world's best-selling not most effective, not most accurate, not most effective, but best-selling COVID-19 vaccine. Its focus was on cancer before it turned to the COVID shot. And the company has long relied on the advancement of computing to help it tailor personalized vaccines to patients' tumors. Now, folks, I don't know what's going to happen if I say this, but I'm going to say it because I don't care. Fenbendazole, apricot seeds, black seed oil. They've worked for a long time. I have personally watched 6 people now get rid of that problem. Personally, by just taking those 3 things. Completely harmless, 0 side effects. They always hide this crap. They always hide this crap right here. Sorry, I didn't blow the screen up. They always hide this in here. The technology is always for cancer. Cancer is 62% of major network hospitals. That's 62% of their business derives from cancer. There is no money in curing an illness. There's only money in treating an illness, a doctor once told me. If they cared about cancer, then why do they put so many cancer-causing carcinogenics in our food. I'm gonna show you something. If somebody can give me their zip code, just a random zip code, I want to show you guys something really fast. If anybody can type in, is just a random zip code there. (98021). So I'm going to put that in there real quick. 98021. Let's go. Make sure you guys are seeing this. Okay, so we're good there. All right, so this is for, so we have several deals here that serves, right? So I'm just going to pick the largest one. I'm going to pick Alderwood Water District in Washington. This one's actually not too bad. You have 8 exceed the EWG health guidelines. And we're going to scroll down here. Now I can't pronounce 90% of these, so I'm just going to say number 1, number 2. Number 1, bromo, whatever, 31 times. The potential effect is cancer. Chloroform, 97 times a side effect, cancer. Chromium, 15 times side effect, cancer. Dichloric acid, 52 times side effect, cancer. Halocetic acids, 314 times side effect, cancer. Halocidic acids, HAA9, 568 times side effect, cancer. Total trihaloamines or Hanes or whatever, TTHMS, 271 times side effect, cancer. And the last one, 205 times the side effect is cancer. So tell me how it is that the medical world is so diehard to save us from cancer, but yet our food industry poisons us daily. Our water departments poison us daily. The deodorant you use poisons you. The toothpaste you use poisons you. The air we breathe is being poisoned. The products, the material that you put on your body with clothes has a negative effect on your body. Polyester is horrible against your skin. Your skin is your biggest living organ. It soaks in everything. So how is it that they're so hell-bent to cure us from cancer that they're willing to use AI and create all of these things, but yet they're going to poison us with food, poison us with water, poison us with supplements, poison us with the air, poison us with everything. And yet they care enough. All right, guys, the last thing I'm going to cover is this Brunson case, 20, where did I put it? 22-380. Now, the reason I want to cover this real quick, there's nothing really to read on there, so I'm just going to show you all the screen there. The reason I want to cover this real quick is I feel like that when you looked at this case, the reason I said it wouldn't go anywhere is because it would create a constitutional crisis. If they upheld this case, it would have flipped the last several elections on their head, and it would cause immense turmoil. Am I saying it doesn't need to happen? I'm not. But I'm telling you what the result would have been. Now, I don't know what's going to happen because, of course, these Supreme Court justices recuse themselves, which in my opinion is a violation of the law. They have a duty to hear cases like these. The fact that they pick and choose what they want to hear, right? Does it have enough basis? Does it have enough basis? We had over 100 Republican, conservative Senate members that were challenging the 2020 election, I believe. And by that challenge, they had the Senate, I believe, was supposed to investigate that for 10 days. right? 10 days. Of course, we had January 6th happen, which ironically, we didn't have National Guard troops there, which we should have because it was already brought up. And we had people that were let in, the gates were pulled back, which created this chaos, which stopped the process that was going on inside. So in my mind, if I'm a Supreme Court justice, I would say that has validity to be heard because that is the law. Once again, here is another law. Here is another crime. Here is another law broken through the government that goes unchecked because they police themselves. You can't police the police, right? So is this a violation of their duty? It's a violation of their duty, in my opinion. John Roberts struck it down. Who installed or who got John Roberts in? Who got a lot of the Supreme Court justices put in before they left office? Again, I'm not saying anything other than to think about these things. You know, Lena says they're scared, death threats, violence to their homes. So is that how we run a country? Because people are scared? So that's it. The rest of us, the entire rest of the United States of America will suffer because they're scared? You could put up a military unit around their house and warn anybody that gets within 100 yards of there, won't be a good day for you. But we're not doing that because it's not about them being scared. It's not about the death threats, and it's not about the violence. It's about a derelict of duty. It's about continual crimes that are committed that go unchecked. And it's about an agenda. How about how scared we are? Amen to that, Tammy. How about how scared we are? That's right. Because you see, folks, at the end of the day, these people that are not upholding our Constitution, not following our laws, and not protecting us believe that they will be part of this elite system once the New World Order takes place. They believe they're going to be saved. They're going to be protected. They're going to be in the in crowd. And what they don't realize is that the people at the top, the very few 13 people at the top, 13 families at the top, they do not care about any of these people. They don't care about Raphael Warnock or anybody else. They are going to use them and throw them to the wolves in the end. But in the meantime, you and I will be at the very bottom of that. So it's time that we start holding people accountable. And the question is always how. Well, that's something you're going to have to answer yourself, and you're going to have to be very honest with yourself about the how. So we'll see you back at 3 o'clock with Just Thinking, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for morning headlines. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope you guys reach as many people as you can. Talk to your neighbors, introduce yourselves, see if you're on the same page. Start talking to people. Quit holing up in your house and acting like there's nothing you can do. Start talking to people, folks. Start reaching out to your neighbors. Start to ask, what are your thoughts? How do you feel? Are you scared? What's going on? Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Lee. You guys have a wonderful day. Again, I don't always promise to say things that you guys like, but I do promise to say what I feel is the truth and what we need to discuss in order to become whole again. This nation was once great, and it can be great again. So you guys have a wonderful day. I will see y'all soon.